Oyez, oyez, oyez. The Honorable Court of Appeals for the Fourth Court of Appeals, District of Texas is now open pursuant to call.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Please, you're welcome to be seated. Welcome to the Fourth Court of Appeals, and thank you for attending today here presently in our courtroom at the Cadena Reeves Justice Center in San Antonio. Welcome to those on live stream, in particular the family of Mr. Hedges that I understand are viewing from Lubbock, Texas. Welcome, and I'm the Chief Justice, Rebecca Martinez here. I am joined by my fellow justices on the Fourth Court. To my immediate right, Justice Patricia Alvarez. To my immediate left, Justice Luz Elena Chapa. To my far right, Justice Irene Rios. And to her immediate right is Justice Lisa Rodriguez. To the left of Justice Chapa is Justice Beth Watkins, and to her left is Justice Lori Valenzuela. This is an official proceeding at the court, and as such, we have a court reporter taking down a record of today's memorial. I would like to thank and extend our gratitude to the entire Hedges family, especially his wife, who's here present today with us, and his extended family. We've got two sisters-in-law, I understand. Lynn Zamerli, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that. Here, Lynn, it's right there. Hello, welcome, and Debbie Mason, who are sisters-in-law to Mr. Hedges. Again, all other family members, and we welcome them here from Lubbock, Texas. So thank you again. We host these court memorials in conjunction with the San Antonio Bar Association. The purpose of these memorials is twofold. First, it is intended to honor the memory of judges and attorneys whose lives serve as an example to others in the profession. In so doing, we inspire ourselves and promote professionalism and an appreciation for how our skills and talents serve to help our community here in San Antonio. A second purpose of these services is to promote our legal fraternity, as honoring the lives of our esteemed colleagues who have departed us give us all deeper roots within our legal community. We are fortunate enough to have one of Mr. Hedges' dear friends and colleagues here today, who I will invite to the podium, Mr. Fred Jones. And Mr. Hedges is gracious enough to make and offer some remarks today in memory of Mr. Hedges. And before I invite him, please give me the point of privilege to be able to recognize also other members of the judiciary who are present here with us in person. That would be Judge Michael Mary, who I see sitting in the back, and I don't see any others. So welcome, Judge Mary. And so, Mr. Jones, please, you're welcome to approach the podium for your remarks. Thank you.
It's going to be very awkward for me to be in a courtroom and teach away from the court, so forgive me. It's a pleasure to be here, and we're very grateful for this opportunity to be here.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. In the audience, we also have my wife, Connie Jones, and we have Marty Glenn, one of our go-to real estate appraisers here in San Antonio, well known throughout the country for the work that he does, and we did some good work on many cases. But so good afternoon, and I'll say here we go. That was Mike's motto when we were presented with a challenge. That's what he would say when we'd get a new case in and we'd see the volume of documents, we'd see the work that needed to be done, and see all of the existing clients that we had to take care of, all the existing deadlines we had to take care of. That was his motto. Just looked at me and said, here we go. And he was not deterred, not afraid of the challenge. The family appreciates the court having this ceremony today, honoring the professional life of Michael Hedges as a South Texas lawyer. And Mike's wife, Patricia, asked me to say a few words about Mike. It's a special honor and a special privilege for me to do this today. I have to confess that it's only after a year and some months that I'm able to speak publicly about Mike. Mike and I became friends in 1980, and it's an awesome thing to be here and to be able to give thanks and credit to those that have walked alongside us in this journey, that have taught us along this way, who have cared for us and who've helped us get where we are. And so Mike was a special person. He was a special lawyer. He was proud to be a lawyer, and he was really good at it. I'd like to acknowledge the presence, as the court has, of Mike's family. Welcome here today. In addition to Pat and her sisters, we have Mike's mother, Ann Hedges. Good afternoon, Mrs. Hedges. Understand you had a special birthday recently, and so happy birthday to you. We also have a lot of Mike's immediate family watching live stream, or will have the opportunity to watch this video later. Many of Mike and Pat's nephews and nieces are also with us here today in spirit, are certainly by live stream. But Mike meant a lot to his nieces and nephews, meant a lot to his family. He was the family lawyer. He was the one who could help in almost any situation. In the professional life of Michael Ray Hedges, my best friend for over 42 years, dating back to 1980, we were both baby lawyers. We were both trying to find our way, trying to figure out what we're going to do. He after some rough spots, with him having an office and me not, I was in the library. And then they brought in Karen Angelini into the library, and I was in the library for 2 years. But it was certainly a pleasure to be, in the library, but I never got the office that Mike had. But we got to be really, really good friends. We're also honored by the presence of a lot of lawyers who are watching today, a lot of lawyers in the firm that I just recently came from. Good, Cassup, Jones, Rickland, Choate, and Watson. Believe that Kyle Watson and Joe Cassup, Rand Rickland, Wayne Choate, our paralegal Sherry Denton, and John Lavender, our former paralegal Ruben Flores, I'm sure is here. But Mike became so close to us that in my family that my kids called him Uncle Mike. They thought he was an uncle because he was always hanging around. And it wasn't until later that they figured out the difference between close family and close friends, if there is any real difference in the end. But Mike and I were Aggie lawyers. People would sometimes make fun of us for that. We would show them the ring and all that meant. He truly became, as some judges said the other day with Judge Canales' retirement, he truly became my brother-in-law, so to speak. He graduated from Texas A&M. Well, I didn't know him at A&M, but he graduated summa cum laude or cum laude, and I didn't. But I graduated, and so Mike started out doing personal injury defense. We were with the firm of Brock, Bingham and Person, which was a well-known personal injury defense lawyer firm. And he tried a lot of cases with Roy Brock, who was the senior partner in the firm and would talk like this whenever he talked to you, just talk with a deep voice. And Mike would tell me stories of going to trial, get to go to trial with Roy Brock. Wow, I'm going to be, carrying his briefcase and going in and just briefing, doing various things. He gets back from court that day and he says, he leaned over to me and said I was going to handle the voir dire. I was going to do the jury selection and I had 5 minutes notice. And then when it came time, the jury's in the box, came time for the opening statement. Mike, go ahead and handle the opening statements. And so Mike learned trial by fire, so to speak. But after those experiences, Mike did a lot of work with banks and with Kmart and did a lot of different things. But I like to think that eventually he found his true niche, what he was really called out to be, what he was created to be, what he was meant to be. And that is a property lawyer like me, doing litigation involving real property disputes and things of that nature. Some people think that property law, real estate law, that's got to be the most boring thing in the history of the world. No, my wife Connie and certainly Patricia can tell you, no, it's not. There's new things every day, new challenges every day. Mike was a proud member of the American Board of Trial Advocates, or it's called ABOTA. And ABOTA is an invitation only, peer-reviewed organization. And it's not easy to get in. You have to go through a pretty rigorous review by the local chapter. You have to have a minimum number of jury trials to verdict. Mike had over 70 jury cases to verdict during his career. It's unheard of in today's times to do that anymore. But last month, speaking of ABOTA, last month, the ABOTA magazine had two things, and I don't think it was a coincidence that I read this as soon as I did. Normally, this magazine called Voir dire is the ABOTA publication. Most of the times, it's like 30 days or 45 days that I see it. But two things that stood out from this article, and these are two stories about qualities required of lawyers. And the first is the importance of authenticity. Lawyers should be open and authentic. We are authentic when there is agreement between what we say, how we act, and what we believe. The other essential quality of a lawyer is the requirement for integrity. Integrity is an indispensable requirement for all attorneys. Integrity is made up of truthfulness and honesty. Mike epitomized both of those qualities. Going back to when I was at Brockmingham in person with Mike, I should also mention that Mike was a member of the Texas Bar Foundation. Only 1/3 of 1% of all members, all attorneys admitted to practice in Texas are elected each year. He had about 10 reported cases, which means cases that are reported in the law books permanently, not really in the book form anymore like you see over there. But he had 7 cases out of this court right here, the Fourth Court of Appeals. And his last reported case, a case that coincidentally we settled yesterday in the Texas Supreme Court, he handled a case. We were hired a month before trial in Austin. Very difficult case, very complicated case. And the Court of Appeals in Austin, it took them 55 pages to decide the case. So that shows you the complexity of it. The other side, we won, and the other side, there were several other law firms involved, but we won, and in the trial court, we won in the Court of Appeals, and the other side took it up to the Texas Supreme Court. And like I say, we just settled it yesterday after a lengthy mediation process. Mike was born with more than a fair share of curiosity in virtually everything he did, everything. But in law, he developed a real knack for figuring things out. In land use cases and surveyors, he could depose a surveyor in his sleep. And as Marty Glenn knows, he could also do the same with real estate appraisers, members of the Appraisal Institute, most highly qualified appraisers in the country and in the world, actually. But that curiosity led him to the ability to solve problems. And that's what I really liked about him when I was kind of stumped on something is I'd say, well, all right, keep thinking, Butch. Because for like Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid, I considered him, and many of the members of my law firm considered him to be the brains of the whole operation, the outfit, as Sundance said. But we had a lot of good cases together. We were hired to represent the city of San Antonio in the Riverwalk case, which was a complicated dispute over who owns the San Antonio River in the downtown area. And so when I figured, initially the city called me over there to talk to them about this case and said, wait a minute, they're claiming that they own the river. They're claiming they own the Riverwalk. And so where's like the deeds to the Riverwalk? And the city attorney said, there aren't any deeds to the Riverwalk. And I said, okay, where's the city attorney's file on the Riverwalk? Sorry, there is no file in the city attorney's office on the Riverwalk. So we had to build one, and we did, and we ended up at the conclusion of the case, which we prevailed. We settled it right before we were picking a jury. We ended up with about 20 of the huge banker's boxes of documents, historical documents dating back to the 1700s. We found references to the King's Grant from 1752 or whenever. The King's Grant is no longer in San Antonio. The King's Grant of San Antonio to San Antonio is not in San Antonio anymore. We think that it was taken after Santa Ana came through in 1842, when he was still pretty hot about what happened at San Jacinto. But it might have been taken at the time of the fall of the Alamo. I don't know. But what Mike did, he developed these systems of dealing with that many papers, that many documents, and systems that I still use today to manage it, to figure it out, to make it understandable, to make it simple for someone to understand, even with the complex information. So we worked on it wasn't just one case. It ended up being about 10 cases. Then, and Judge, I should have said this to begin with. If I'm going too long, I assume you have a hook.
You've got the whole afternoon.
I assume you have a hook or the red light will.
It's fixing to, no, I'm kidding.
We're fascinated by what you're sharing with us, so
Well,
continue, Mr. Jones.
well, there's the other interesting case that we handled along the Riverwalk was
I'll only invite you to go to the mic, please, just because we're video and recording this for
I can't.
posterity.
It's very hard to do, to not look at the judges. All right, I'll do better. Another case that we were hired on after the Riverwalk case was a related case dealing with a park called Urrutia Gardens. It's at the Hildebrand over there near the old USAA building right across from Incarnate Word. And the city came to us and said, Incarnate Word is doing some kind of deal with USAA and Southwestern Belt, SWBC, or SW, whatever it was, the phone company, before they moved to Dallas. And they're doing something over there. They're realigning some boundary lines, and we don't think they own the back part of that. And so we researched it, and sure enough, when Dr. Urrutia settled there in the early 1920s thereabouts, he moved the boundary line down. He filled in part of the river. There used to be two tributaries there of the river, and he filled in one that used to be an island, and then he expanded out all the way to the river. And we found that evidence very clearly from an 1852 map that we found, and that was back when Hildebrand was called Cow Street. There was no Broadway. Cal Street, they called it Cal Street. Why do you think they called it Cal Street? Because that's the way they got the cows from the farms and ranches up on New Braunfels down to the river to have water. And so, again, before Broadway, New Braunfels was there. And then there was so Mike and I decided we're going to go as part of our Riverwalk representation. We're going to walk from Brackenridge Park up to the springs, the source of the San Antonio River. And back 25 years ago, there wasn't a real awareness of exactly where the Blue Hole was. Most people know now that the Blue Hole is on Incarnate Word property, and there's a walkway up there, and you can go up there and see the Blue Hole. It's completely dry right now. But we were determined we were going to go find it. And the problem was we were in our suit pants and our office shoes. But we started off and we got up to, there was a fork of a stream coming this way and a stream coming this way. And so we said, okay, let's go left. And so we kept walking up this creek bed, very congested with branches and things of that nature. We got all the way, kept walking, couldn't find where there was any blue hole or well or anything like that. And got up to, here's the Almas Dam. And we're going, this is inconceivable. Where are we? Where is the blue hole? And there was a public works guy up on the dam, and he looked down at us and like, what are y'all? And we looked up at him and said, hey, where is the blue hole? And he goes, it's about 2 miles that way. And so we were like, well, wait a minute. Where is all this water coming from? It's got to be coming from somewhere. And the guy looked back at us and he like, do you remember that it rained yesterday? So the dam holds the water and lets the water out. So that was a fun trip. We called Ruben to come pick us up in his van. He picked us up from the dam. The other interesting case, and I'll make it quick, is what is called the ugly signs case. And that was a case where Marty Glenn was our appraisal expert. The ugly signs case was on 281, actually on McAllister Freeway, just north of downtown, where a developer had bought the old Borden milk factory, and he was converting it into office, many warehouse storage. And he had done a lot of research on the city's sign code and figured out that McAllister Freeway had a restriction on it that you cannot put any more new billboards on McAllister Freeway. But the city's sign code did not, or it also allowed for what are called on-premise signs. So this developer had the idea that this is not a billboard I'm creating here. He put in 4 of them and he called them on-premise signs. And for $2,000 a month or something, you could rent a used storeroom there and store your law books or whatever, and you could have your name up on the big sign. So they sued us. They sued over First Amendment issues, very complicated issues and that sort of thing. 3-week jury trial in federal court. Mike did the heavy lifting. I did the easy stuff. And we won that case. The jury found for us, and then the judge found for us. And it's interesting what the judge said. The judge, Judge Royal Ferguson, federal district judge, wrote an opinion, and it's not typical for a district court and federal system to write an opinion like this, but this is explaining how he decided the case, 17 pages. And at the end, he says, and it's got a bunch of footnotes and all the rest of it. At the end, he says this about lawyers. He had actually, we got into some pretty heavy disputes with opposing counsel. He made us, he didn't order us to, but he suggested that we go have lunch with opposing counsel at La Focaccia. And of course, what you do when a federal judge suggests something, you go and you do it. And he even joined us with his marshal. But what the judge said at the end is this: as a final note, although the lawyers for both sides in this dispute fought hard and at sometimes even to some excess, they all, and who was that? me, not me. Um, they always maintained a professional bearing. We're all at all times candid and straight with the court. Despite the frustrations that the court experienced in this combative environment, the court always appreciated the integrity and decency of the lawyers, and herein expresses its gratitude for their efforts. So that was the ugly signs case. It was an interesting case, and the press called it the ugly signs case because when the developer got real put out with the city for not letting him do what he wanted to do, that he put up these really ugly signs like of, fungus on your toenails. And it was just, that's why they called it that. But we actually found an email from their PR people saying, we're going to make this ugly. We're going to make people in San Antonio hate us. We're going to make, and we blew that up and, big old exhibit at trial and all the rest of it. So it was a fun case. Another funny thing about that case is that there was an alternate juror in case one of the jurors became disqualified or didn't make it to court one day. There was an alternate, and we knew that he was an Aggie because he had his big Aggie ring on too, wood iron and all the rest of it. So unfortunately, he was the alternate. Well, the day before jury argument, somebody on the jury can't make it because of a sick child, and he gets on he's not an alternate anymore. He is an official juror. And of course, Mike is all happy because he's about to do his final argument. And we have this thing called Aggie Speak. You can do that. And he ended up being the foreman of the jury. Afterwards told us that it had nothing to do with the big ring had on the whole trial. But we made a good team at trial. He was a early morning guy. Wake up at 3:00 in the morning and start working, sending emails to opposing counsel. I am not an early riser. And so I would be sending emails at 11 o'clock, midnight, 1 o'clock. And the other lawyer was like, what is this? 20-hour law firm. So Mike was passionate about what he did. His clients loved him for that. And so he was very generous with his time. Mike grew up in West Texas. You family members there in Lubbock know this very well, and a lot of you know it if you've driven through there. There's a lot of feedlots out there, and consequently, there's a lot of manure. And one of Mike's jobs was to haul that manure, and you'd have to shovel it up into the truck and shovel it up into the trailer. And he said, I'm never going to go back and do that again. That's why this law thing is going to have to be something I can live with. So he liked to figure things out, liked to solve problems. Mike actually came to the rescue of me. I was a brand new lawyer. I had done some briefing when I was a law clerk with Brock Bingham in person on punitive damages awards in cases of DWI cases. Our client was going 76 miles an hour down West Avenue when he rear-ended some people at Bassey Road at the intersection. He was like 0.27, and he killed 2 women in the back of the car. 2 husbands were in the front seat, 2 wives in the back seat, both wives killed. Wrongful death case gets filed. And by then, I'm a lawyer with the firm. And so his deposition is going to be set, and it's going to be taken here in San Antonio. He's been charged with involuntary or manslaughter of some kind. I think that was before the intoxication manslaughter. And so his deposition is set, and I'm like doing the communication and all. And what does Brock say to me? You're going to handle that deposition. And I told Mike about that, and he just started shaking his head, and he goes, no, you can't go to that deposition by yourself. And I said, why wouldn't I? He's already, messed up his life so much that what more could happen worse than that? He said, well, he's going to have to take the Fifth Amendment on every question that they ask. And so he went with me. We pled the Fifth every time. He ended up pleading guilty. We ended up settling the case. But anyway, our our lawyer, Lee Warren, an associate in our office, I think he's probably watching here today. Lee Warren had this to say about Mike. He shared a wall with Mike at our firm, Good Castle Jones, Rickland Watson. So his office is here and Mike's office is there. He said, if I got stumped on something, I had to knock on his door. He would put down whatever he was working on, listen patiently to my disorganized explanation, and then he'd say, look up at me and say, well, isn't that just a classic case of merger by deed? And Lee, of course, would look at him like, what is that? Mike might say, was that just clogging the equity of redemption? And, what does clogging the equity of redemption mean? So that's the kind of lawyer Mike was. He was generous with his time, generous with his money. And when it came to helping people, he was just an exemplary professional. In the words of one opponent, who I'm not going to say his name, he said to me, I had a lot of lawyers to, send me emails and messages after Mike passed on. And this lawyer had fierce advocacy in 2 cases. He said, I got to try 2 jury cases to verdict against Mike over the years. He was a great advocate and a genuine guy with a mischievous smile, which was certainly true. You didn't know what he was thinking, but you knew that it probably wasn't going to be good for you if you happened to be on the other side. Another one of his clients told me, quote, Mike was an incredible attorney and an even better person. Mike was a big influence on the lawyer I became, and a lot of lawyers and paralegals who are out there could probably say the same thing. He had a lot of influence on the people that he met. He was a special kind of guy, special lawyer. We're thankful for his life and what he meant to us all. And so with that, I'd say, here we go. Thank you.
Thank you again, Mr. Jones. We appreciate you sharing your remarks. Thank you very much.
Sorry if I went over time.
No,
That was
that's
very
okay.
nice.
Thank
Very
you.
nice.
Thank you for having us.
I'd like to say something.
I'd like to introduce Judge Alvarez, who has a few remarks to share.
Hello, everyone. Well, I've known Mike for quite a while. And let me tell you, there are many attorneys very few attorneys, I should say, that really make a difference in the impact they have with our younger generations. And Michael was one of them. And let me tell you why. He not only promoted the Texas A&M among students. I mean, he brainwashed the students, the high school students. He really did, because, he went to all the mock trials and the high school mock trials. He was a judge. He was there helping all the kids, brainwashing them all. So, but he also went as far as financially helping them once they once they got into his alma mater. He was, an Aggie all the way, and I'm a Texas Longhorn. So we had a lot of discussions about that, as you can imagine. He was also very active here locally with our St. Mary's Law School, our mock trial, our Board of Advocates. And I'm an ABOTA member also. Okay, and I've become very engaged in trying to get judges for the mock trial competitions, not only here in San Antonio, but all around the nation. And I was, using all my influence and harassing all the ABOTA attorneys, please, and so forth. Mike was always there. He was there in every competition. He went in Zoom. He made arrangements. He rearranged his schedule, except depositions or trials, but he was always there for us. And it always made me feel like someone who was genuinely concerned for these law students, who was genuinely concerned for our high school students. And, he couldn't get the St. Mary's Law School people back in Texas A&M because they've already been, in college, but, he really cared for them, and he consciously cared for them. So that always impressed me. Mike was a legal scholar. He was a gentleman. He was, straight face, like you heard right now. But he had such a big heart. The feedback he gave our law students after they competed, was a feedback that I will always remember, integrity. It's not about winning. It's about doing your best. And I think that Michael did that. He did his best. He never missed our judge chats, our about a judge chats, and our Tuesday chats, and he never missed a reunion. He was always there. He was in good cheers, good spirits, and he had I would say, an English kind of West Texas, sense of humor that sparkled. And he was a sparkle. And the San Antonio Boda chapter and the Texas chapter of Boda are surely going to miss him, as I am. And thank you for sharing him for so long with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Justice Alvarez. In reviewing the obituary that I was shared with, there are comments there that I wish to underscore, but I'm grateful that the resolution that will be offered actually incorporated the best part of that. So with that, I'll invite a resolution now read into the official court record by the San Antonio Bar President, who's here present to offer that resolution for the court. Mr. Steve Chiscano, you're invited to the podium. Excuse me.
May it please the court. Justices, Mrs. Hedges, family, friends. This is the memorial resolution on the death of Michael Ray Hedges on behalf of the San Antonio Bar Association. Whereas Michael Ray Hedges was born on April 10, 1954 in Amherst, Texas, and passed away on October 3rd, 2022. And whereas Mr. Hedges graduated summa cum laude from Texas A&M University in 1976, and in 1979, he earned his JD from Baylor University School of Law. Whereas Mr. Hedges was a successful trial lawyer for Good, Cassup, Jones, Rickland, Choate, and Watson PC, where he focused on civil litigation, specifically land use and title disputes. Mr. Hedges represented the city of San Antonio in San Antonio Riverwalk boundary disputes with historical facts dating back to 1852. He also served as the city's lead trial attorney in a federal jury trial over the validity of signed ordinances along McAllister Freeway, otherwise known as the, quote, ugly signs, end quote, case. And whereas Mr. Hedges was a member of the American Board of Trial Advocates and the San Antonio Bar Association and a fellow of the Texas Bar Foundation, known for being a take charge lawyer, Mr. Hedges was tireless and fierce in his efforts for his clients and colleagues. And whereas he loved skiing, hiking, and sightseeing with the love of his life, Patricia, whom he married in 1991. He treasured his family and friends and expressed his love by preparing culinary delights, sharing a game of dominoes or charades, leading a two-step, providing a comforting word, or filling the room with laughter with his childlike spirit. He served well, loved deeply, and lived with a Luckenbach state of mind. And where Mr. Hedges is survived by his wife, Patricia Hedges, mother Ann Hedges, brother Pat Hedges, two sisters, Gay and Joan Hedges, nieces and nephews, Jerry Ann Moore, Brittany Hanson, Stephanie Henderson, Casey Hedges, Jonathan Webb, Tara Humphreys, and Kristen McCain, and many great nieces and nephews. Be it resolved that the San Antonio Bar Association and the Texas Fourth Court of Appeals express their genuine regret on the death of Michael Ray Hedges and their sincerest sympathy to his family and to his friends. Be it further resolved that this resolution be appended to the minutes of the San Antonio Bar Association and copy sent to his family. Be it further resolved that this resolution be placed in the permanent records and minutes of the Texas Fourth Court of Appeals, dated this 8th day of February, 2024. Mrs. Hedges, it was an honor and privilege to be able to read that into the record. Mr. Jones, those were amazing words. I wish you had spoken 20 more minutes for what it's worth. But thank you for the honor of being able to speak today. Thank you.
Thank you, you may. Thank you, Mr. Ciscano. And so it'd be ordered the permanent records and minutes of this court shall reflect the proceedings of today honoring the life of Michael Ray Hedges, and a copy of both the recording and the video recording will be provided for the family on MAP. Each memorial service is recorded by a court reporter and later transcribed, and a copy of which is presented to the surviving members. The Hoffman reporting and video service today, our court reporters Terry Schultz, and our videographer is Mr. Steve Lopez. And they volunteer their time and donate their services for all of these memorial services. They have for many, many, many years since the inception of this court tradition. So please join me in applause to express our gratitude. The court will be in recess shortly and made available to the family and colleagues here for the rest of our business day in honor of Mr. Hedges and his family. Again, on behalf of the Fourth Court of Appeals and the San Antonio Bar Association, thank you all for your attendance. We're grateful for those who have joined us via live stream, and this proceeding is also archived on the court's YouTube channel. So for later viewing for any and all to enjoy. Again, thank you.
Can I say something? The cookies come from Erin McNeese, who's an Avoda member. So she wanted to make sure that you knew that with all her love, here are the cookies.
Thank you for everyone for your attendance, and court is now adjourned.
Thank you. The cookies are for dogs.
Sometimes we would say, are you busy? And a lot of times, oh, that's okay. I get that as well.